Ready, Freddy. Thanksgiving Turkey Trouble. By Abby Kline. Illustrated by John McKinley. Chapter 1. Let's give thanks. Listen, everyone, said our teacher, Mrs. Whooshy. Thanksgiving is coming up, so I'd like us all to take a minute and think about the things we are thankful for. I'm going to make a list of your suggestions. Chloe's hand shot up. Oh, I know lots of things I'm thankful for. That's wonderful, Chloe. Why don't you tell us about one thing? This should be good, I whispered to my best friend, Robbie. Yeah, Robbie whispered back. I bet she's probably going to say she's thankful for red nail polish. Chloe, we're waiting, said Mrs. Whooshy. I'm thinking, said Chloe, wrinkling up her nose. It's just so hard to choose only one thing. Max let out a huge sigh. Hey, little Miss Priss, we haven't got all day. Chloe turned and glared at Max. It's not your turn. It's mine, and I was about to say, I am thankful for my really beautiful, expensive dresses when you interrupted me. My other good friend, Jessie, leaned over to me. Is she serious? Oh, she's serious all right. Mrs. Whooshy stared at Chloe for a moment and then said, Yes, well, that's nice, but I was hoping we could think of things that are a bit more personal. Oh, you mean like jewelry? Robbie shook his head. Is she for real? No, Chloe, more like things you can't buy in a store. I don't get it, said Chloe. Of course you don't, Jessie muttered under her breath. I think I might have an idea, Mrs. Whooshy. Great, Jessie. What is it? Family. I am thankful for my family. Excellent. That is exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. I feel so lucky to have my mom and my abuela, my grandma, living with me. Mrs. Whooshy wrote the word family at the top of the list. I have one, Robbie said, raising his hand. A home, a place to live. Every time I see a homeless person on the street, I think about how lucky I am that I have a place to sleep at night. Another excellent idea, said Mrs. Whooshy, adding the word home. I'd like each person in the class to add something to our list. Who'd like to go next? Food, yelled Max. As usual, he didn't raise his hand. He just blurted out the answer. Thank you, Max. Food is a good suggestion, but you need to remember to raise your hand and not call out. Hey, that's not fair, Chloe whined. You said you didn't want things you can buy in a store. You can buy food in a store. That's true, Chloe, said Mrs. Whooshy, but food is something we can't live without. Well, I can't live without my expensive dresses, so why can't they go on the list? Mrs. Whooshy let out a big sigh and then called on the next person. Kids made all kinds of suggestions for the list: nature, friends, pets, and grandparents. My turn was next, and I couldn't think of anything else to say. All of my ideas were already on the list. Freddy, how about you? Said Mrs. Whooshy. You haven't given us a word for the list yet. Freddy, you've had a lot of time to think. We're running out of time. Love. The word just slipped out of my mouth before I could stop it. I could hear all the kids snickering. Then Max started singing, Freddy and Jessie sitting in a tree. Kissing. First comes love. Max, that is enough, said Mrs. Whooshy, and she pointed to a chair. Go sit in that chair. You are in timeout. Then she turned back to me. I am sorry about that, Freddy. I think what you said is beautiful. I think we are all thankful for love. I don't even want to think about what the world would be like without love. Nice one, Robbie whispered. Thanks. Mrs. Wishy sure liked it. That'll probably put you on her good list. Okay, boys and girls. You all did a great job thinking of things you are thankful for. Now I have a special surprise for you. I just love surprises, Chloe squealed, clapping her hands together. Is it a present? Is there one for everybody? No, Chloe, it's not a present, Mrs. Wishy answered. You could tell she was starting to get irritated. Oh, said Chloe, disappointed. We are going to do a little play for your parents about the story of Thanksgiving, and we'll also include some of these things we are thankful for. Yeah. A play. A play, everyone cheered. I love plays, said Jessie. I do, too. Susie told me this play is really fun. She got to do it when she was in Mrs. Wishy's class. Cool. Boys and girls, you will all get your parts tomorrow. Everyone started yelling, I want to be a pilgrim. I want to be an Indian. Quiet down, everybody. I know you are all excited, but you will have to wait until tomorrow. Oh heh. And you do not get to choose your part. I will write down all the parts on little slips of paper, and you will pick one out of a hat. There will be no complaining. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. I hope I get a good part, said Jessie. Me, too, I said. Me, too. Chapter 2. Pass the potatoes, please. That night at dinner my mom said, I have some great news. Papa Dave and Grammy Rose are coming for Thanksgiving. Woo-hoo! I yelled, jumping up and down and pumping my fist in the air. I'm glad you're excited, Freddy. But please sit back down in your chair. You almost knocked the bowl of mashed potatoes on the floor. Sorry, Mom. I love when they come. Grammy is the best cook. Is she going to make the turkey and stuffing? Of course. What would Thanksgiving be without Grammy Rose's stuffing? It is the best, my dad agreed. They called today to tell me they were going to be coming. I jumped out of my chair again and sang, They're coming. They're coming, as I danced around the table. You're crazy, Susie said. She made the cuckoo sign with her finger. As I was dancing, I accidentally knocked into the table with my hip. The bowl of mashed potatoes went sailing off the table and landed in my dad's lap. I froze. Oh my goodness! Daniel, are you all right? My mom asked, jumping out of her chair and running over to my dad. Don't move. Let me get something to clean it up. She ran to the sink to get a sponge and some paper towels. My dad looked furious. Freddy! I know it was an accident, but your mother already asked you once to stop fooling around at the table. Look what happened because you didn't listen to her. You need to be a better listener. Sorry, Dad. My mom came over with the sponge and wiped the potato off my dad's pants. Now, Freddy, sit down, and I don't want you to get up again until we are finished with dinner. Do you understand? I quickly sat back down and stared at the floor. Yes, Dad. Why don't we talk about something else, said my mom. Did anything exciting happen at school today? I got 100% on my spelling test, Susie said, grinning from ear to ear. That's wonderful, honey. I am very proud of you. Whoop-de-doo, I muttered under my breath. Freddy, that is not very polite. You should be happy for your sister. Yeah, brat, you should be happy for me. I am not a brat. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Oh, yes, you are. All right, you too. Enough, my dad interrupted. I'd like to eat my dinner in peace. Do you think maybe we could get through one dinner without the two of you fighting? We both stared at him. Well? Yes, I mumbled. Susie, how about you? Yes. Great. Being nice to each other starts right now. So, Freddy, what about you? Do you have any news from school? My mom asked. Well, oh yeah. I just remembered. Today Mrs. Whooshy told us that we are going to do a Thanksgiving play for our parents. Remember at the beginning of the year I told you that you would get to do that in Mrs. Whooshy's class? Susie said excitedly. I know. I've been waiting. It is so much fun. You get to wear costumes and paint the scenery. What part did you get? I was a pilgrim girl on the Mayflower. You looked so cute, my mom said. I have pictures of you in the photo album wearing that adorable costume. I hope I get a good part. Of course you'll get a good part. There is no such thing as a bad part, said my mom. Well, actually, there is, Susie said. What do you mean? Somebody in the class has to be the Thanksgiving turkey. The turkey? No way. There is no way I'm going to dress up in some turkey costume in front of all my friends and their parents. And don't forget Papa and Grammy. I'd be so embarrassed. I don't want Papa and Grammy to see me like that. Well, when I was in Mrs. Whooshy's class, you didn't get to choose your part. That's exactly what she told us today. She said that we're going to pick the parts out of a hat. Did she also say, you get what you get, and you don't get upset? Yeah, I muttered. It's her favorite thing to say. That sounds fair, my mom said. Maybe you'll be a pilgrim like your sister. I really want to be one of the Indians, I said as I got up out of my chair and started whooping and dancing around the table. Look at me. I'm doing an Indian dance that Mrs. Whooshy taught us today. Freddy, my mom yelled. Remember what happened the last time you started dancing around the table? You need to sit down right now. Your father does not want to wear any more of our dinner. One quickly sat back down. Sorry. That dance was impressive. You would make a great Indian, honey. But what if I pick the turkey? Stop worrying about it, Freddy. It's not the end of the world. If you pick the turkey, then you'll be a turkey. An adorable, plump, feathery, brown turkey. That's easy for you to say, I grumbled under my breath. You don't have to get up in front of everyone and make a fool of yourself. Chapter 3. And the turkey goes to. The next day at recess everyone was talking about the play. I can't wait to get our parts. My mom says that I should be the star of the show, said Chloe, tossing her strawberry blonde curls and smiling her best movie star smile. Of course she does, Jessie whispered in my ear. She says that I am the prettiest and the most talented girl in the whole class. I started to giggle. What's so funny, Freddy? Asked Chloe. Why are you laughing? I'll tell you why he's laughing, Max interrupted. Because you're a ding-dong. A crazy ding-dong. I am not, Chloe said, stamping her foot. You take that back right now, Max Sellers, or I'm going to tell Mrs. Whooshy. Max stamped his foot and imitated Chloe. I'm going to tell Mrs. Whooshy, he whined. We all started giggling. Stop that. Stop that. Stop copying me. Stop copying me. Oh, you make me so mad I'm going to. I couldn't wait to hear this. What could she possibly do to the biggest bully in the whole first grade? What are you going to do? Max snickered. Punch me? Chloe's face got redder and redder. It was almost the color of her hair. I thought steam was going to come out of her ears. In a huff, she turned and ran toward our teacher, calling, Mrs. Whooshy, Mrs. Whooshy. That girl is something else, said Robbie. Besides, said Jessie, I don't know what she was talking about. There is no star in this show, and Mrs. Whooshy is not giving us our parts. We are picking them out of a hat. Did you have to remind me? I groaned. What's your problem? My problem is I don't want to be the turkey. The turkey? Said Robbie. What are you talking about? Susie did this play when she was in first grade, and last night she told me that someone in the class has to be the turkey. Ha, ha, ha. Max laughed hysterically. Freddy is a turkey. Freddy is a turkey. Hey, I wouldn't be laughing like that if were you, said Jessie. What if you have to be the turkey? Yeah, I said, that would be the perfect part for you because you're already a big turkey. Ha, ha, ha. Max walked over to me and got right in my face. I could feel his hot breath on my cheek. What did you say, shark freak? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. Did I just call Max Sellers a turkey? What was I thinking? He could crush me with one hand. I said. I said. Jessie stepped in between Max and me and poked her finger into Max's chest. He said you were a turkey. Wow. Jessie was so brave. She always stood up to Max. He never pushed her around. Maybe someday I would be as brave as she was, but today was not the day. I took a few steps backwards. That was a close one, said Robbie. I know. What were you thinking, calling Max Sellers a turkey? I don't know, I whispered. Just then the bell rang, signaling the end of recess, and we all lined up to go inside. Max, said Mrs. Whooshy, were you copying Chloe? Well, Yes, he did, Mrs. Whooshy. Yes, he did. Chloe whined. Chloe, I am talking to Max right now. You need to be quiet. HMPHH, said Chloe, putting her hands on her hips. Now, Max, it's a simple question. Did you copy Chloe? Yes or no? Yes, he said quietly. What was that? I didn't hear you. Yes. I have told you many times not to tease the other children. You will have a timeout, and when we go inside and pick our parts for the play, you will pick last. But, that's not fair, Max protested. Oh, it's very fair, said Mrs. Whooshy, and if you want to complain, then maybe you don't have to pick a part at all. Max stopped arguing and dragged himself inside. Even he knew he'd better be quiet if he wanted to be in the play. We all sat down on the rug, except for Max, who had to sit in the timeout chair. Okay, boys and girls. I know you have been waiting all day to pick your parts for the play, and now it's time. Jessie squeezed my hand. Good luck. I squeezed back. Good luck to you, too. I hope you get the part you want. Here's how it's going to work, continued Mrs. Whooshy. I have written the parts down on little pieces of paper and put them in this hat. When I come around, you will pick one and only one piece of paper out of the hat. The papers are folded, and I want you to keep them that way until everyone has had a chance to pick. When everyone has a piece of paper in his or her hand, then I will say, 1, 2, 3, look. Then you may all look at your pieces of paper. Understand? We all nodded our heads. Any questions? May I pick first, Mrs. Whooshy? Asked Chloe. No. I am going to go down the rows. John will pick first. As Mrs. Whooshy got closer and closer to me, my heart was beating so fast I thought it was going to pop out of my chest. Okay, Freddy, it's your turn to pick. Come on, Indian, I whispered to myself. I felt all around the hat and picked out a slip of paper that I hoped would be lucky. As Mrs. Whooshy continued walking around to all the kids, I squeezed the paper tightly in my hand and rubbed my lucky shark's tooth for good luck. And last but not least, said Mrs. Whooshy, Max gets to pick. It's not really picking when there's only one left, he grumped. As I said before, Mrs. Whooshy continued. You don't have to have a part at all. It's the dumb old turkey. I just know it, said Max as he pulled the last piece of paper out of the hat. Did I skip anyone? Asked Mrs. Whooshy. We all shook our heads. Okay then. The big moment has arrived. After I count to 3, I will say, gobble, look, gobble, and then you can all open your papers. I closed the piece of paper. Ready? I must be seeing 2, things, 3, I thought. Look. It can't possibly my say eyes turkey. And slowly unfolded the paper. There's no way. When I opened my eyes, opened the paper I thought again, I was going to and throw sure up. Enough, there it was in big letters. No matter how many times I opened and closed the paper, it still said turkey. No matter how long I stared at it, it still said turkey. My life is over, I groaned. What's the matter? Asked Robbie. I got it. Got what?